we will be here tomorrow. As you know, they have the big golf tournament at Doral, which I own, and I was going to go to it, but I find this very interesting, and so I may or may not be here, I'm not sure. I probably would like to go to Doral and watch the tournament. It's a tournament, it's the big final tournament of the year, and it would have been nice to have seen it. It'll be on television, we'll see what happens. But this is a disgrace, should have never, ever been allowed to happen. I'll tell you, another thing that would have never happened is the attack on Israel.
That was Donald Trump comparing him being unable to go to a golf tournament at one of his properties to the terrorist attack on Israel. Shameful. Donald Trump said it would have been nice to have seen it. This is a disgrace. Another thing that would have never happened, the attack on Israel. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. That was Donald Trump during a break at the civil fraud trial brought by the New York Attorney General against him in New York. Donald Trump was there for the first 2.5 days of trial in week 1 and then fled to Mar-a-Lago after a gag order was imposed on him for threatening the judge's law clerk and defaming the judge's law clerk by saying that she was in a relationship with Democratic New York Senator Chuck Schumer. But we got used to in those first 2.5 days, Donald Trump lashing out, ranting and raving like a maniac. And then he went back to Mar-a-Lago. He's now returned as we are in week 3 of the civil fraud case. And again, he's ranting and raving like a maniac during breaks. And you just saw him there talking about how he's upset that he's not going to be able to be at a golf tournament. By the way, he's free to go to the golf tournament if he wants to. As a civil defendant, there's nothing requiring him to be there. But one of the reasons it appears why Donald Trump wants to be there is he thinks that his presence is effective in, I don't know what, perhaps intimidating the witnesses, because what was reported today was in the court, not just outside the court. Donald Trump was acting out, behaving very immaturely, and then being, somewhat obstructive and loud and crumpling the paper and basically throwing his hands all around and almost talking to the witnesses as they were being cross-examined, where Judge Engoron just had enough and admonished Donald Trump and admonished Donald Trump's lawyers in no uncertain terms to be quiet, to allow these proceedings to take place and to just sit there and be quiet. And Judge Engoron absolutely put Donald Trump in his place and called out Donald Trump's theatrics. And as Judge Engoron was explaining, look, we need to get the testimony of these witnesses. The witnesses need to have the opportunity to explain what happened, let the testimony take place, and stop this behavior. To which Donald Trump then left on another break. And when Donald Trump took a break, because he was admonished and yelled at by Judge Engoron, Donald Trump then kind of whined and complained and said, this is a very hostile judge. It's a very hostile judge. Here, watch Donald Trump whining after getting yelled at by the judge and saying the judge was hostile to him, and this is a hostile place. Here, play the clip.
We have no rights whatsoever. Any company coming to New York would be crazy because it's a setup. There's a rigged trial. We have a hostile group of people. We have a very hostile judge. I hate to say it. We have a very, very hostile judge. And I think everybody knows that. And we see that. But the good thing is we have all of the evidence on our side. They have nothing. And it's a case that should have never been brought. I just read many, many articles saying this case is a disgrace to our nation.
I mean, it's just so embarrassing to watch that take place. One observation as well, during the proceedings today, a woman who I believe to be court staff in the building, not in this courtroom, just in another, someone who worked for the court, who was a supporter of Donald Trump, was apparently kind of looked like she was walking towards Donald Trump. It was being reported in the courtroom, and she immediately got arrested. And here, I'll show you the quick video of her after she was arrested. Here, play this clip.
Excuse me, what did you want to talk to Mr. Trump about in the courtroom? What was she arrested for, you guys?
You know, and the irony that she was arrested, and rightfully so, is that every single day Donald Trump engages in similar behavior, and he's allowed to interrupt court proceedings. And yeah, sure, gag orders are imposed on him, but his behavior really isn't changed. He threatens people, attacks people, and you see it right there.
For me, and I know many families out there, it's more important than ever to make sure that you're saving money and cutting back on your expenses. For example, I used to spend over $100 a month on streaming services. Netflix, Disney+, Prime, you name it. But since I started using ExpressVPN, I've been able to cut back and save so much every month. Let me explain. See, all these streaming services like Netflix actually have thousands of more shows than you think. You just don't see them all because they give you different shows depending on your country. So what you see on Netflix here is completely different to what someone in Italy or South Korea sees. But using the ExpressVPN app, I can change my online location. ExpressVPN has over 90 countries to choose from. So every time I run out of stuff to watch, I just switch over to another country to unlock new shows. Right now, I'm watching Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. It's not on Netflix here, but with ExpressVPN, I just tap one button to change my country to Italy, refresh the page, and it shows up. I don't need to pay extra for Apple TV or Prime just to watch it. And on top of that, I can even use ExpressVPN to get discounts. Some services cost less in other countries. For example, if you buy Netflix from Argentina, it costs a fraction of the price. At less than $7 a month, ExpressVPN pays for itself and so much more. It's a no-brainer. So if you want to get way more shows and save money while you're at it, go to expressvpn.com/MeidasTouch. Don't forget to use my link in the description below and you could get 3 extra months free. That's expressvpn.com/MeidasTouch. expressvpn.com/MeidasTouch to learn more. Thank you.
I want to show you a longer clip right now. I won't show you for too long, but this was Donald Trump ranting and raving and whining as well. It's a slightly longer clip. And then after I show this to you, here's what I want to do too. I want to compare it to what President Biden was saying in Israel at the exact same time, so you can just see the differences here. So you saw that first clip of Donald Trump whining that he wants to be in his golf course to watch a golf tournament and that it's really unfair to him that he's in the court voluntarily. You saw the other clip of Donald Trump whining that it's a hostile judge. Here's a slightly longer clip. Let me play this.
You probably watched, they have a disclaimer in there, meaning you could look at it in a lot of different ways, but it means go out and get your own analysis, do your own analysis, and everybody that's seen it, they said they've never seen a clause like that. Go out and do due diligence to the banks. The banks came in, as you know, Deutsche Bank came in, he was their witness, and he was a great witness for us. They said they were very happy, the loan was paid off, there were no defaults, there were no deficiencies, there was absolutely nothing. And I will tell you, what they've done here, the Attorney General sitting inside, spending her whole day here, day after day after day, when people are being murdered all over the streets, the sidewalks of New York, violent crime, and no business is going to move into New York. They used a statute on me that's never been used, not once, has never been used for anything like this. And they used it on me where I don't get a jury, I don't get anything. We have no rights whatsoever. Any company coming to New York would be crazy because it's a setup. There's a rigged trial. We have a hostile group of people. We have a very hostile judge. I hate to say it. We have a very, very hostile judge. And I think everybody knows that, and we see that. But the good thing is we have all of the evidence on our side. They have nothing. And it's a case that should have never been brought. I just read many, many articles saying this case is a disgrace to our nation. It's a disgrace to New York and New York State. And that's exactly what it is. It's a total disgrace. So we will be here tomorrow. As you know, they have the big golf tournament at Doral, which I own, and I was going to go to it, but I find this very interesting. And so I may or may not be here, I'm not sure. I probably would like to go to Doral and watch the tournament. It's a tournament, it's the big final tournament of the year. And it would have been nice to have seen it. It'll be on television, we'll see what happens. But This is a disgrace. Should have never, ever been allowed to happen.
And let me just show you the clip of President Biden in Israel. And I had to hand it to President Biden here because I thought his tone was very measured. I think it was a really impressive speech that he gave, thoughtful, measured, and delivering it in Israel. What he's about to say, I think, makes it all the more powerful. It's simply inconceivable that Donald Trump could ever make such a statement. Here, play this clip.
Justice must be done. But I caution this: while you feel that rage, don't be consumed by it. After 9/11, we were enraged in the United States. While we sought justice and got justice, we also made mistakes. I'm the first U.S. president to visit Israel in time of war. I've made wartime decisions. I know the choices are never clear or easy for the leadership. There's always cost, but it requires being deliberate. It requires asking very hard questions. It requires clarity about the objectives and an honest assessment about whether the path you're on will achieve those objectives. The vast majority of Palestinians are not Hamas. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people.
And just to give you a little primer, like, well, what was Donald Trump yelling about? What was he ranting and raving about? There were two witnesses today. One was Jack Weisselberg, who's the son of Alan Weisselberg. And Jack Weisselberg worked for a company called Ladder Capital that provided loans to the Trump organization. And basically the deals were done through Alan Weisselberg, Trump's former CFO, who claimed that he doesn't know about generally accepted accounting principles, would cut these deals here, it appears, with his son, Jack Weisselberg, who worked for the lender and then provided what's alleged to be these fraudulent and phony financial valuations and statements from basically father to son. And then there was more testimony from Doug Larson. And Doug Larson was a former executive director at Cushman & Wakefield that did appraisals for the Trump organization. And during his direct testimony, Doug Larson said that he didn't do an appraisal for 40 Wall Street. And then on cross-examination, Donald Trump's lawyers were trying to show that he communicated with Donald Trump's former controller, Jeff McConney, and that somehow because he communicated with Jeff McConney and he didn't recall that, they tried to act like that was somehow he engaged in perjury for that. But I mean, it's all consistent with what his direct testimony was, that he did not engage in a valuation and he doesn't remember having any specific conversations with Jeff McConney. So I don't really understand what the fuss is about. But for Donald Trump, that's where he was like saying, it's perjury, it's perjury. And then the Judge Engoron's like, just be quiet, sit down and be quiet. And then when Judge Engoron was firm like that, Donald Trump listened. And then Donald Trump governed himself accordingly. And that's why this is what judges need to do with his behavior. You need to just put him in his place. He's a weak, petulant, man-child. And you just got to say to him, enough is enough, and you got to stand up to the bully, and you just got to, put your foot down and enforce the laws. And he backs down. He always does. He always has his whole life. And I'm glad Judge Engoron finally did that. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch for more. Have a good day.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.